Captain Jake Morrison stared out the window of the transport ship as the massive space station came into view. Galactic Council Station Omega-7 was bigger than anything he had ever seen. It looked like a city floating in space, with towers and domes that stretched in all directions. Lights blinked along its surface like stars. "Holy shit," whispered Commander Ryan Cole from the seat beside him. "Look at the size of that thing." Dr. Lisa Park looked up from her tablet where she had been, reading about the different alien species they would meet. "The station houses over 2 million beings from 47 different worlds," she said. "This is the biggest diplomatic gathering in galactic history." Jake nodded, but kept looking out the window. 3 years ago, humans had been alone in the universe as far as they knew. Then the Galactic Council had made first contact. Now here they were, about to join the biggest political body in the galaxy. It felt like a dream. The transport ship docked with a soft thud. Jake stood up and straightened. His uniform. He was nervous, but tried not to show it. As the captain of Earth's first diplomatic mission, he had to look confident. Ryan and Lisa stood beside him, along with 6 other team members. They were humanity's first ambassadors to the stars. The airlock opened with a hiss. Jake stepped through first and immediately stopped. The docking bay was enormous, with a ceiling so high he could barely see it. But that was not what made him stop. It was the aliens. There were dozens of them, maybe hundreds. Some looked almost human, but with different colored skin or strange markings. Others were completely different. Jake saw beings that looked like giant insects, others that seemed to be made of living metal, and some that floated in the air without any visible means of support. But it was the predators that caught his attention. He could tell which ones they were right away, even though he had never seen their species before. They moved differently than the others. Their eyes were always watching, always scanning. They reminded him of wolves or tigers, even though they did not look like Earth animals at all. A tall being with scales and sharp teeth approached them. It walked on 2 legs like a human, but had a long tail and claws instead of fingernails. Its eyes were yellow and had vertical pupils like a snake. "Welcome, humans," it said in perfect English. "I am Ambassador HFY of the Vexstar people. We have been waiting to meet you." Jake stepped forward and extended his hand. "Captain Jake Morrison, representing Earth. Thank you for having us." HFY looked at Jake's hand for a moment, then reached out with its own clawed hand. The moment their eyes met, something strange happened. The alien's pupils dilated, and it tilted its head to one side. It was like it was trying to remember something. "Interesting," HFY said quietly. "Very interesting indeed." Before Jake could ask what that meant, other aliens began approaching. A group of beings that looked like walking wolves came over. Their leader was a large male with gray fur and yellow eyes. He sniffed the air around the humans, and then made a sound that might have been a growl or a laugh. "Hunt Brother Mordine of the Chronari Pack," he said. "You smell like something I should remember, but I do not know what." More predator species approached. There were the Zelani, who looked like giant cats with orange and black stripes. The Thraktor, who were like bears, but with 6 arms. The shadow hunters from Nyx, who seemed to be made of living darkness. Each one had the same reaction when they looked at the humans. Recognition, confusion, and something that looked almost like respect. Dr. Lisa Park was busy taking notes and trying to record everything. "This is fascinating," she whispered to Jake. "Look at their body language. The prey species are curious, but keep their distance. But the predators, they are acting like they know us." Ryan was more focused on security. He noticed that while the predator species were interested in the humans, they were not acting aggressive. If anything, they seemed to be keeping a respectful distance. That was not what he had expected from apex predators. The group was led through the station by a guide, who looked like a tall, thin human with blue skin. The corridors were wide and tall, designed to accommodate beings of all sizes. Jake saw more species than he could count. Some were so strange that he could not even figure out how they moved or what they were. But everywhere they went, the same thing happened. When predator species saw the humans, they would stop and stare. Some would whisper to each other in their own languages. Others would approach and try to make conversation. The prey species, on the other hand, were polite but distant. They were taken to their quarters, which were in the diplomatic section of the station. The rooms were comfortable and had been designed to accommodate human needs. Jake was unpacking his things when there was a soft knock on his door. He opened it to find Ambassador Kethva standing in the hallway. The Vextar was alone, which Jake found interesting. Most of the aliens traveled in groups. "Captain Norrison," Kethva said, "may I speak with you privately?" Jake nodded and stepped aside to let the alien into his room. Kethva moved with the smooth grace of a natural predator, never making unnecessary noise. "I wanted to ask you something," Kethva said. "When your species hunts, what do you hunt?" Jake was surprised by the question. "We do not hunt much anymore. We have farms and factories to make our food. Some humans still hunt animals for sport, but most of us do not need to." Kethva made a sound that might have been laughter. "That is not what I mean. Every species hunts something. The Vextar hunt to prove our strength. The Kronari hunt to feed their pack. The Zilani hunt to defend their territory. But when I look in your eyes, I see something different. You hunt, but not for food or territory or strength." Jake did not know what to say. He had never thought about it that way. "Your species carries the mark of the eternal hunt," Kethva continued. "We see it in your eyes. A same fire that burns. In ours, but different. Older, perhaps. Every predator species on this station has noticed it. We all see something familiar in human eyes, but none of us can say what it is." The alien moved closer to the window and looked out at the stars. "Tomorrow, the council will begin the formal meetings. But tonight, the predators will gather to discuss what we have seen. You and your people have awakened something in us, Captain Morrison. Something we thought we had forgotten." Kethva turned back to Jake. "Be careful, human. Being recognized by predators is not always a good thing. Sometimes it means they see you as prey, but sometimes it means they see you as something much more dangerous." With that, the alien left, leaving Jake alone with his thoughts. He looked at himself in the mirror and tried to see what the alien saw. His eyes looked normal to him, just brown human eyes. But apparently they saw something else when they looked at him. He thought about what Kethva had said about hunting. What did humans hunt? They had hunted animals for food for thousands of years. They had hunted each other in wars. But what did they hunt now? As he got ready for bed, Jake could not shake the feeling that he was missing something important. Something about what it meant to be human, and why every predator species in the galaxy seemed to recognize it. 3 days later, Dr. Lisa Park found herself on a transport ship heading to planet Zarian Prime. The Galactic Council had arranged for various species to work together on scientific missions. It was supposed to help different races understand each other better. Lisa was excited about the chance to study alien ecosystems up close. The team was made up of 12 beings from 8 different species. There were 2 other humans besides Lisa. Commander Ryan Cole had volunteered to come along for security, and Dr. Ben Torres was there as a cultural expert. The rest of the team included scientists from various prey species, but what interested Lisa most were the predators. Huntmaster Skarthik was a Vextar like Ambassador Kethva, but older and covered in ritual scars. His yellow eyes never seemed to blink, and he moved with the careful precision of someone who had killed many times. Beside him was Fang Brother Mordin, the Kronari pack leader they had met at the station. 2 Zilani hunters completed the predator group, their striped fur gleaming under the ship's lights. What surprised Lisa was that the predators had specifically requested the humans join their survey team. When she asked why, Skarthik had simply said, "We wish to see how you hunt." Planet Zirian Prime was a world of dense forests and wide grasslands. It had been chosen as neutral territory because no species had ever claimed it as their own. The wildlife was dangerous enough that most beings avoided it, which made it perfect for scientific study. The team set up base camp near a river that cut through the forest. The first few days went smoothly. They collected samples, studied the local plants, and observed the native animals from a safe distance. Lisa noticed that the predator species seemed restless, like they were waiting for something to happen. On the 4th night, something did happen. Lisa was working late in her tent, analyzing the day's samples, when she heard a sound that made her blood run cold. It was a roar, but not like any animal she had ever heard. It was deep and somehow wrong, like it came from something that should not exist. She grabbed her communicator and called Ryan. "Did you hear that?" "Yeah." Ryan's voice was tense. "Everyone needs to get to the center of camp. Now." Lisa stepped out of her tent and immediately saw the problem. The camp's perimeter lights showed something moving in the forest. Something big. The other scientists were gathering near the central fire, looking scared. But the predator species looked different. They looked excited. "What is it?" Lisa asked Skarthik. The Vextar's pupils had dilated to thin slits. "Kethmer," he said. "A shadow stalker. They are the apex predators of this world. We did not expect to encounter one." The thing stepped into the light, and Lisa understood why the others looked scared. It was at least 12 feet tall, with a body like a giant cat, but 6 legs instead of 4. Its fur was so dark, it seemed to absorb light. Its eyes glowed red in the darkness, and when it opened its mouth, she saw teeth as long as her fingers. The creature circled the camp, staying just outside the light. It was studying them, trying to decide which one would be easiest to kill. "Pack formation," Mordin growled to the other predators. "Skarthik, you take left flank. Selani hunters, guard the rear. I will lead the charge." But before any of them could move, Ryan Cole was already walking toward the creature. He had his rifle in his hands, but he was not aiming it. He was moving slowly, deliberately, like he was in no hurry at all. "Ryan, what are you doing?" Lisa whispered into her communicator. "Hunting," Ryan replied calmly. The shadow stalker saw Ryan approaching and crouched lower, ready to spring. But something made it hesitate. Ryan kept walking forward, never taking his eyes off the creature. When he was about 20 feet away, he stopped. "Ben," Ryan said quietly into his communicator, "circle around to the right. Stay low. Move when I move." Dr. Ben Torres was not a soldier, but he understood what Ryan wanted. He picked up a metal rod from their equipment and began moving through the darkness. The shadow stalker was focused on Ryan now. It could sense that he was the most dangerous of the humans, but it could not figure out why this small, weak-looking creature was not running away. Ryan raised his rifle and fired a single shot, but he did not aim to kill. The bullet hit the creature in the shoulder, making it roar in pain and anger. Now it was committed to the fight. The beast charged at Ryan, moving faster than anything that big should be able to move. But Ryan was not there anymore. He had rolled to the side and was already firing again. This time Ben appeared from the creature's blind spot, hitting it with the metal rod dot. The shadow stalker spun around to face this new threat, but that put its back to Ryan. Another shot, this one aimed at the creature's back leg. The beast stumbled but did not fall. Lisa watched in amazement as the two humans worked together. They were not trying to overpower the creature or outrun it. They were wearing it down, one small wound at a time. Every time it focused on one of them, the other would strike. They never got close enough for it to use its claws, but they never got far enough away for it to escape either. The fight lasted 10 minutes. When it was over, the Shadow Stalker lay dead with 12 bullet wounds and numerous cuts from Ben's improvised weapon. Ryan and Ben were both bleeding from minor scratches, but they were alive. The alien predators stood in silence, staring at the dead creature. Finally, Scarthick approached Ryan. "How?" the Vexstar asked. "That creature was stronger than all of us combined, faster than any of us. It should have killed you both." Ryan was reloading his rifle, his hands steady despite what had just happened. "It was stronger and faster," he agreed. "But it was thinking like a predator. We were thinking like humans." "I do not understand," Morden said. Ben wiped blood from a cut on his arm. "The creature was hunting us, but we were hunting it back. We did not try to match its strength or speed. We just kept hurting it until it could not fight anymore." Lisa was taking notes, trying to record everything that had happened. But she could see that the alien predators were more interested in Ryan and Ben than in her scientific observations. Scarthick walked around the dead Shadow Stalker, examining the wounds. "You did not kill it quickly," he observed. "You made it suffer. You made it weak. This is not how predators hunt." "No," Ryan said. "It is how humans hunt." The Vexstar looked at Ryan with those unblinking yellow eyes. "Your species does not hunt for survival, nor for dominance, nor for territory. You hunt because something inside you recognizes that everything else is also hunting. You hunt because you understand the universe itself is a predator." Lisa looked up from her notes. "What do you mean?" Scarthick pointed at the dead creature. "This Shadow Stalker was the apex predator of this world. Nothing hunted it. It lived without fear, without knowing what it felt like to be prey. But your people, you have always been both hunter and hunted. You know what it feels like to be afraid, so you know how to make others afraid." Morden nodded. "Among my people, we have legends of the first hunter, a being who taught all predators how to hunt, but who was himself prey to something even greater. Tonight, I think I have seen the first hunter's children. The Zilani hunters had been quiet during this exchange, but now one of them spoke. Our stories tell of creatures who hunted not just animals, but death itself. Beings who would chase their prey for days, never stopping, never giving up, until exhaustion claimed their target." Lisa felt a chill that had nothing to do with the night air. "Are you saying that other species have legends about humans?" "Not about humans specifically," Scarthick replied, "but about creatures like you. Beings who hunt with persistence instead of strength, who use intelligence instead of claws, who understand that the greatest prey is fear itself." The group stood around the dead Shadow Stalker for a long time, each lost in their own thoughts. Lisa realized that tonight had changed something fundamental about how the alien predators saw humans. They no longer saw them as weak creatures who needed protection. They saw them as something far more dangerous. As they headed back to their tents, Morden approached Lisa. "Doctor, in your studies of human history, have you ever wondered why your species survived when stronger creatures did not?" Lisa thought about it. "We always assumed it was because we were smarter. We made tools and worked together." The Chronari made a sound that might have been laughter. "Tonight, you showed us the real reason. You survived because you never stopped hunting. Even when you became the prey, you kept hunting. That is something no other species has ever learned to do." Lisa went to sleep that night with a new understanding of what it meant to be human. And somewhere in the darkness, she could hear the alien predators talking quietly among themselves. sharing stories of the legendary hunters who had walked among the stars long before any of them had learned to hunt. 2 weeks after the incident on Zarian Prime, Dr. Nathan Brooks received a message that would change everything. An automated probe had discovered ruins on the abandoned world of Kethmora. The ruins were old, older than any known civilization in the galaxy. The Galactic Council wanted a team to investigate immediately. Nathan was an archaeologist who specialized in ancient cultures. He had joined the human diplomatic mission, hoping to learn about Galian history. Now he found himself leading an expedition to what might be the oldest site ever discovered. The team that assembled on Kethmora was larger than the one that had gone to Zarian Prime. Besides Nathan and Commander Amy Chun, there were archaeologists from 6 different species. But once again, the predator species had insisted on being included. Skarthik was there, along with Mordin and several other hunters from various worlds. Kethmora was a dead world. Its sun had burned out millions of years ago, and the planet was now a frozen ball of rock. The only reason anything could survive on its surface was the geothermal energy that still bubbled up from the planet's core. The ruins were built around one of these hot spots, where the temperature was just warm enough for the expedition to work. The ruins were unlike anything Nathan had ever seen. The buildings were made from blocks of stone that had been cut with incredible precision. Some of the blocks weighed hundreds of tons, but they fit together so perfectly that you could not slip a piece of paper between them. The architecture was strange, too, with doorways and corridors that seemed designed for beings of many different sizes. But it was the murals that made Nathan's hands shake as he photographed them. The walls were covered with paintings that showed various species, engaged in what looked like hunting rituals. Nathan recognized some of the species from their modern descendants. There were creatures that looked like early Vextar, primitive Kronari, and ancestors of dozens of other predator races. But at the center of every mural was the same figure dotted. Was bipedal, clearly intelligent, but primitive looking. It had long arms, a relatively small head, and eyes that seemed to follow you no matter where you stood. What made Nathan's breath catch was that the figure looked remarkably human. "Amy, come look at this," Nathan called to Commander Chondot. Amy approached the wall Nathan was studying. The mural showed the bipedal figure surrounded by various predator species. But the predators were not attacking it. Instead, they seemed to be watching it with the same kind of respectful wariness that the modern aliens had shown toward humans. "Does that look familiar to you?" Nathan asked. Amy stared at the painting for a long moment. "It looks like us," she said quietly. "But that's impossible. These ruins are millions of years old." Dr. Elena Martinez, a human anthropologist, had been working on a different section of ruins. She came running over with excitement and fear written on her face. "Nathan, you need to see what I found," she said, "and you're not going to like it." Elena led them to a chamber deeper in the ruins. This room was different from the others. The walls were covered with what looked like warnings rather than celebrations. The same bipedal figure appeared in these murals too, but the context was completely different out here. The figure was shown hunting, but it was not hunting animals. It was hunting the predator species themselves. The murals showed the bipedal creatures working in groups, using tools and weapons. They were shown tracking large predators across vast distances, setting traps, and engaging in what could only be described as warfare. In painting after painting, the mighty predators of ancient worlds were shown falling to these smaller, weaker-looking creatures. "This can't be right," Amy said. "These paintings show humans hunting aliens millions of years before humans even existed." "That's not the worst part," Elena replied. She led them to a pile of bone fragments she had been carefully excavating. "I've been analyzing these bones. They don't belong to the bipedal species shown in the murals. They belong to the predators." Nathan knelt down to examine the bones more closely. They were old, incredibly old, but they had been preserved by the planet's unique conditions. Many of them showed clear signs of systematic butchering. These creatures were hunted, Elena continued. Not killed in battle, but hunted like animals. Look at these cut marks. They're too precise to be from claws or teeth. They were made with tools. Scar Thick had been listening to their conversation. From across the chamber, now he approached, moving with that careful predator grace that Nathan had learned to recognize. What do your human scientists make of these images? The Vextar asked. Nathan looked up at the alien. We don't know what to make of them. According to everything we know about evolution and galactic history, this is impossible. Humans didn't exist when these ruins were built. But the evidence suggests otherwise, Scarthick replied. Among my people, we have stories of the time before, when the great hunters were themselves hunted. We always thought they were just legends. Morden had joined them as well. The Chronari was studying the murals with intense interest. My pack elders tell stories of the endless hunt. He sighed. They speak of creatures that would pursue their prey across entire continents, never stopping, never giving up. The prey would grow exhausted and weak, but the hunters would continue as if they felt no fatigue at all. Dr. Martinez pointed to one of the murals. Look at this painting. It shows the bipedal figures tracking a group of large predators. But look at the timeline implied by the images. This hunt took place over many days, maybe weeks. The predators get smaller and weaker in each panel, but the hunters look exactly the same. Amy studied the painting Elena was pointing to. It's like they're showing persistence hunting, she said. That's a technique human ancestors used on Earth. You don't try to outrun your prey or overpower it. You just keep following it until it collapses from exhaustion. But persistence hunting only works if you have incredible endurance, Nathan pointed out. Most species can sprint faster than humans, but very few can match human endurance over long distances. Scarthick made a sound that might have been agreement. This explains much, he said. When we look at modern humans, we see something familiar, but cannot place it. Perhaps what we see is genetic memory, the instinctive recognition of an ancient enemy, or an ancient teacher, Morden added. These murals do not show your ancestors as monsters. They show them as master hunters. Perhaps they taught our ancestors how to truly hunt. Elena had been quiet during this exchange, but now she spoke up. There's something else, she said. I found evidence of multiple layers in these ruins. They were built and rebuilt many times, over millions of years. And in each layer, the same bipedal figures appear. Nathan felt a chill that had nothing to do with the planet's cold atmosphere. Are you saying that these creatures appeared repeatedly throughout galactic history? That's exactly what I'm saying, Elena replied. Every few million years, they show up, interact with the predator species of that era, and then disappear. Again, until now. Amy looked around the chamber at all the alien predators who had insisted on joining their expedition. And now humans have appeared again, and every predator species in the galaxy recognizes us. The implications of what they had discovered were staggering. If Elena was right, then humans were not a new species at all. They were the latest iteration of something that had been appearing throughout galactic history for millions of years. Scarthick approached one of the murals and placed his clawed hand against the painted figure. We have always wondered why the universe seemed to be hunting us all, he said quietly. Now I begin to understand. It was not the universe that hunted us. It was waiting for a species that would hunt the universe back. The team spent 3 more days at the ruins, documenting everything they could find. But Nathan knew that what they had discovered would change everything. The question of why predator species recognized something familiar in human eyes had been answered, but it had raised a dozen new questions that were even more disturbing. As they prepared to leave Kethmora, Nathan looked back at the ancient ruins one last time. Somewhere in those painted walls was the story of humanity's true place in the galaxy. They were not newcomers at all. They were the return of something very old, something that had been hunting among the stars for millions of years. The predators of the galaxy had been right to recognize them. They had been right to show respect and wariness. Because according to the evidence, humans were not just another species joining the galactic community. They were the species that had been teaching others how to hunt since the beginning of recorded time. 5 days after returning from Kethmora, Captain Jake Morrison received a message unlike any other. It came through channels that the Galactic Council did not even know existed. The message was simple. The Memory Keepers wished to speak with the humans. Come alone to the coordinates provided. Tell no one. Jake stared at the message for a long time. He had never heard of the Memory Keepers. When he asked other species about them, most claimed they did not exist. But a few of the older aliens, especially the predators, would get a strange look in their eyes and change the subject. The coordinates led to a system that was not on any official galactic maps. Jake took Dr. Lisa Park and Commander Ben Torres with him, despite the message saying to come alone. If this was a trap, he wanted his best people with him. The system contained only one planet, and it was unlike anything they had ever seen. It looked like it was made of crystal, with light flowing through it like water. As their ship approached, the light began to pulse in patterns that hurt to look at directly. "I'm not reading any weapons," Ben reported from the pilot's seat. "But I'm not reading anything that makes sense either. The entire planet seems to be some kind of energy field." A voice suddenly filled their ship, speaking in perfect English, but somehow coming from everywhere at once. "Welcome, children of the endless hunt. We have been waiting for you to return." The ship was gently pulled down to the planet's surface, though there did not seem to be any landing pad or docking bay. They simply found themselves standing in a vast chamber made of living light. The walls moved and shifted like they were breathing. 3 beings approached them, though calling them beings was not quite right. They looked like they were made of the same flowing light as the chamber. They had vaguely humanoid shapes, but their edges kept shifting and changing. "I am the first chronicler," the center figure said. "We are the Memory Keepers, the last of our kind. We have recorded the history of this galaxy since before the first stars learned to burn." Jake stepped forward, trying to look more confident. Then he felt, "You called us children of the endless hunt. What does that mean?" The first chronicler moved closer, and Jake could see scenes playing out in the light that made up its body. He saw stars being born, civilizations rising and falling, and creatures that looked remarkably human moving through it all. "You are not the first of your kind," the first chronicler said. "You are the latest iteration of a species that has appeared throughout galactic history under many names. The persistence hunters, the endurance stalkers, the tireless ones, always. The same, always different, always returning when the galaxy needs them most." Lisa pulled out her tablet to take notes, but the device would not work in the strange energy field. "What do you mean by iteration?" she asked. "Your species does not evolve the same way others do," another memory keeper explained. "Most species change gradually over millions of years. But yours appears suddenly fully formed when certain conditions are met. Then you disappear, only to return again when you are needed." Ben was studying the chamber around them, looking for threats or escape routes. Needed for what? The first chronicler gestured, and the walls around them began showing images. They saw the murals from Kethmora, but now they could see the full story. The bipedal figures were not just hunting the predator species. They were teaching them. "Your species has a unique understanding of what it means to hunt," the first chronicler explained. "Other predators hunt for food, territory, or dominance. But your kind hunts concepts themselves. You hunt death, meaninglessness, entropy. You hunt the very idea of giving up. The images showed human ancestors pursuing creatures across vast distances. But as Jake watched more carefully, he realized the humans were not just trying to kill their prey. They were testing them, pushing them to their limits, forcing them to become stronger. "This is training," Jake said suddenly. "You're showing us training exercises." "Very good," the first chronicler replied. "Your ancestors did not hunt, destroy the predator species. They hunted to teach them what true persistence means. They showed them that the greatest prey is not any animal, but the concept of defeat itself." Lisa was staring at the images with growing understanding. That's why the predator species recognize us. They carry genetic memories of being trained by our ancestors. More than that, the first chronicler said. They carry the knowledge your ancestors gave them. The understanding that everything in the universe is both predator and prey. That the only way to survive is to keep hunting, even when you become the hunted. The images changed to show modern times. They saw the incident on Zarian Prime, but from a perspective that none of them had experienced. They could see the Shadow Stalker's confusion as Ryan and Ben fought in a way it did not understand. They could see the moment when it realized it was no longer the predator. "Your species teaches others that there is always something bigger to hunt," another memory keeper explained. "When a creature thinks it has reached the top of the food chain, you appear to show them they are wrong. You hunt their complacency, their arrogance, their belief that they cannot be defeated." Ben was beginning to understand. "That's why we survived on Earth. We were never the strongest or fastest, but we never stopped hunting. Even when we became civilized, we kept looking for new things to hunt." "Exactly," the first chronicler said. "Other species hunt until they have enough food or territory. Then they rest. But humans hunt ideas, problems, challenges. You hunt the impossible itself." The chamber around them began to shift, showing new images. These were scenes from human history that Jake recognized. Humans climbing mountains because they were there. Humans diving to the bottom of oceans just to see what was down there. Humans launching themselves into space to walk on other worlds. "Your ancestors hunted mammoths until they were extinct," the first chronicler observed. "Then they hunted distance by crossing oceans. Then they hunted ignorance by creating science. Then they hunted the sky itself by building flying machines. Now you hunt the stars." Lisa was beginning to see the pattern. We don't hunt things. We hunt limitations. Every time we overcome one challenge, we immediately start looking for a bigger one. And that is why the predator species of the galaxy recognize you, the first chronicler explained. You represent what they all aspire to become. Hunters who never run out of prey because there is always something new to hunt. The images showed what happened after human ancestors disappeared from each era. The predator species they had trained went on to become the apex hunters of their times. But eventually, they became complacent. They reached the top of their food chains and stopped growing, stopped learning, stopped hunting anything meaningful. "And then you return," the first chronicler said. "When the galaxy grows stagnant, when the predators forget what it means to truly hunt, your species appears again to remind them." Jake felt a weight settling on his shoulders. "So we're not really a new species joining the galactic community. We're teachers returning to class." "You are the hunters of hunters," the first chronicler confirmed. "Your role is to ensure that the cycle of predator and prey never stops, never becomes static. You hunt the concept of finality itself." The memory keeper showed them one final image. It was the current galactic community, with all its various species living in relative peace and comfort. Many of the predator species had become civilized, no longer really hunting anything challenging. "The galaxy has grown comfortable," the first chronicler explained. "The great hunters have forgotten what it means to be hunted. The prey species have forgotten what it means to grow stronger. The cycle has slowed almost to a stop. Ben understood what they were being told. And now humans have appeared again to restart the cycle. Not to restart it, the first chronicler corrected. To evolve it. Each time your species returns, you bring new understanding, new ways of hunting, new challenges for the galaxy to face. This time, you must teach all species, predator and prey alike, to hunt the greatest challenge of all. Which is? Lisa asked. The Memory Keeper's form shifted, showing images of empty space, dead stars, and the slow heat death of the universe itself. You must teach them to hunt entropy, the first chronicler said. To hunt the end of everything. To hunt death itself on a cosmic scale. That is why you have returned now in this era of galactic peace, because the greatest hunt of all is about to begin. The chamber began to fade around them, and they found themselves back on their ship, but the knowledge remained. They now understood why every predator species in the galaxy looked at humans with recognition and respect. They were looking at their teachers, returned once again to show them what it really meant to hunt. Word of what the humans had learned from the Memory Keepers spread through the galactic community like wildfire. Within days, representatives from dozens of species were demanding answers. The prey species were frightened. The idea that humans were ancient teachers of predators made them worry about their own safety. But the predator species had a different reaction entirely. They wanted proof. Commander Ryan Cole found himself standing in the main assembly hall of Galactic Council Station. Omega-7 facing representatives from every major predator species in the galaxy. Scarthik was there, along with Mordine and the Zalani hunters, but they had brought others with them. Pack leaders, hunt masters, and apex predators from worlds Ryan had never heard of. The Memory Keepers tell interesting stories, said a massive creature that looked like a cross between a bear and a spider. But we are not children to be impressed by pretty lights and ancient tales. If humans are truly the teachers of hunters, then prove it. Captain Jake Morrison stepped forward. What kind of proof do you want? The old way, Scarthik replied. The way our ancestors learned from yours. Hunt with us. Show us that you can. Do what the legends claim. Within hours, arrangements were made. Ships departed for different worlds across the galaxy. Each ship carried a team of humans and a group of predators from a specific species. Each world would present a different challenge, a different test of what it meant to hunt. Rien found himself on a ship heading to Kronos 7, the homeworld of the Kronari pack hunters. With him were Sergeant Matt Foster and Corporal Katie Wells, two soldiers who had volunteered for what everyone knew was a dangerous mission. The Kronari had made it clear that this would not be a simulation or training exercise. This would be real hunting with real consequences. Kronos 7 was a world of endless forests and bitter cold. The trees were so tall that their tops disappeared into the clouds, and the undergrowth was thick enough to hide an army. It was perfect territory for pack hunters, which was exactly why the Kronari had evolved there. The test is simple, Morden explained as they geared up at the landing site. There is a creature in these woods called a storm bear. It is the apex predator of this world, larger and stronger than anything you have faced. My pack has been hunting this particular bear for 3 months without success. If you can help us bring it down, we will accept that humans are worthy teachers. Ryan studied the information they had been given about storm bears. They were massive, weighing over 2 tons, with claws that could cut through steel and hide thick enough to stop most weapons. They were also intelligent, capable of setting traps and ambushes for their hunters. How many Kronari have you lost trying to hunt this bear? Matt asked, Morden's ears flattened against his head. 7. It killed 3 outright and wounded 4 others so badly they may never hunt again. Katie looked at the dense forest around them. And you want us to help you hunt something that dangerous with just the 3 of us? The old stories. Say your ancestors hunted creatures far larger and more dangerous than storm bears, another Chronari said. They say humans could bring down prey that entire packs could not touch. Ryan shouldered his rifle and checked his equipment one more. Time. Then let's see if the old stories are true. The hunt began at dawn. The Chronari pack moved through the forest with the silent grace of natural predators, following scent trails that were invisible to human senses. But Ryan noticed that they were following established patterns, moving in ways that any intelligent prey could predict. How long have you been tracking this bear the same way? Ryan asked Mordin. 3 months, as I said. We follow its scent, we attempt to surround it, it escapes or turns to fight. And in 3 months, it has learned your patterns, Ryan observed. It knows how you hunt, so it knows how to avoid you. Matt was studying the tracks they were following. These prints are old, at least 2 days. We're following where it was, not where it is. The Chronari looked confused. But the scent trail leads this way. The scent trail leads where it wants you to go, Katie pointed out. If this thing is as smart as you say, it's laying false trails. Ryan called a halt and gathered everyone together. We need to think about this differently. You've been hunting this bear like it's just a big animal. But it's not. It's been hunting you back. What do you mean? Morden asked. It knows your pack size, your weapons, your tactics. It's been studying you for 3 months, just like you've been studying it. The question is, what has it learned? Ryan spread out a map of the area on the ground. Show me where each of your pack members was killed or wounded. As the Chronari marked the locations, a pattern became clear. The bear had been driving them toward a specific area of the forest, a place where the trees grew closer together and the undergrowth was thickest. It's hurting you, Matt realized. It's trying to get you to fight it on ground where it has the advantage. So what do we do? One of the younger Chronari asked. Ryan studied the map for a long moment. We give it what it wants, but not the way it expects. The plan Ryan outlined was unlike anything the Chronari had ever attempted. Instead of trying to track the bear or surround it, they were going to make it come to them. But they were going to choose the battlefield. They found a clearing about a mile from where the bear had been trying to lure them. It was open ground where the bear's size and strength would be advantages, but where the humans' weapons would have clear lines of sight. This is madness, one of the Chronari protested. In open ground, the storm bear will be able to charge us directly. We will have nowhere to hide. Exactly, Ryan replied. It's been trying to get you to fight it in thick forest where you can't see it coming and can't use your superior numbers effectively. So we're going to do the opposite. They set up in the clearing just before sunset. Katie and Matt took positions on opposite sides, while Ryan remained in the center with Morgan and 2 other Chronari. The rest of the pack spread out in a wide circle, but far enough back that they would not be caught in the initial attack. Now what? Morgan asked. Now we wait, Ryan said, and we make noise. For the next hour, they made themselves as obvious as possible. They talked loudly, built a fire, and generally acted like prey animals that had no idea they were being hunted. It went against every instinct the Chronari had, but Ryan insisted it was necessary. The storm bear appeared just as the last light was fading from the sky. It was even larger than Ryan had expected, with muscles that rippled under its thick fur, and eyes that glowed in the firelight. It had been watching them from the tree line, trying to understand why its prey was acting so strangely. It's confused, Katie observed through her radio. It knows this is wrong, but it can't figure out what the trap is. There is no trap, Ryan replied. That's what's confusing it. The bear studied them for another 10 minutes before deciding that the opportunity was too good to pass up. It charged into the clearing with a roar that shook the trees. Ryan and the Chronari scattered as planned, But they did not run far. Instead of trying to escape, they began a coordinated attack. Matt and Katie opened fire from their positions, not trying to kill the bear, but to wound it and make it angry. Meanwhile, Ryan and the Chronari darted in and out, landing small cuts with their blades before dancing away again. The bear was strong and fast, but it was fighting a battle it did not understand. Every time it focused on one attacker, others would strike from different directions. When it tried to chase one enemy, it would be hit from behind. The wounds were small individually, but they were adding up. "This is how your ancestors hunted mammoths," Ryan called to Mordin as they regrouped after another series of strikes. Not by being stronger or faster, but by being smarter and more patient. The fight lasted 2 hours. When it was over, the storm bear lay dead in the clearing, killed not by any single devastating attack, but by dozens of small wounds that had gradually weakened it until it could no longer defend itself. The Chronari pack stood around the dead bear in amazement. They had been trying to fight it like a battle, but the humans had shown them how to hunt it like prey. "We were thinking like predators," Mordain said quietly. "You taught us to think like humans." Similar scenes were playing out on worlds across the galaxy. On Vexstar Prime, Dr. Lisa Park was teaching reptilian hunters how to track prey across vast distances without losing patience. On Zelani 7, Captain Jake Morrison was showing cat-like predators how to hunt creatures that were faster and more agile than themselves. But the most important lesson was not about technique or tactics. It was about perspective. The humans were teaching the galaxy's predators that there was always something bigger to hunt, always a new challenge to face, always a reason to keep growing stronger. When the trials were complete and all the teams had returned to the station, the predator species gathered to discuss what they had learned. The consensus was unanimous. The humans had proven themselves worthy teachers. But more than that, they had proven that the ancient cycle was beginning. Again, the galaxy's hunters were about to learn what it meant to hunt challenges they had never imagined possible. The great assembly hall of Galactic Council Station Omega-7 had never seen anything like it before. Representatives from every known species in the galaxy were present, but this was not a normal diplomatic meeting. This was a recognition ceremony. The first of its kind in galactic history. Captain Jake Morrison stood at the center of the hall, with Dr. Lisa Park and Commander Ryan Cole beside him. Around them, in carefully arranged groups, stood the predator species who had participated in the trials. Skarthik was there, along with Mordnin and dozens of other hunt masters from across the galaxy. But what made this gathering truly historic was the presence of the prey species. For the first time since the trials had begun, representatives of non-predator races had asked to attend. They wanted to understand what was happening and what it meant for the future of galactic civilization. Ambassador Kethva stepped forward to address the assembly. The Vexstar looked older than when Jake had first met him, but his yellow eyes burned with something that might have been excitement. "We have called this gathering to share what we have learned," Kethva announced. "The trials are complete. The humans have proven what the ancient stories claimed. But more than that, they have taught us something new about what it means to hunt." Murmurs rippled through the assembly. The prey species looked nervous, while the predators seemed eager to hear what would be said next. Before the humans returned, "To us," Kethva continued, "we thought we understood hunting. We hunted for food, for territory, for dominance. We believed that being the apex predator meant having nothing left to fear, nothing left to challenge us." Mordin stepped forward to join the Vexstar ambassador. "The humans showed us that we had become lazy," the Chronari said. "We had stopped growing, stopped learning, stopped becoming stronger. We had forgotten the most important truth of the hunt, which is," asked a representative of the Trell, a species of small, rabbit-like creatures who had always been prey. Ryan Cole spoke for. The first time since the ceremony had begun. Everything hunts, and everything is hunted. There is no top of the food chain, no final victory, no moment when you can stop trying to survive and grow stronger. Lisa Park opened a tablet and began reading from her notes. During our trials, we observed something remarkable. The predator species we worked with did not just learn new hunting techniques. They learned new ways of thinking about what hunting means. She gestured to a group of Zelani hunters who had been part of the trials. On their homeworld, the Zelani used to hunt only when they were hungry or when they needed to defend their territory. Now they hunt challenges. They seek out problems to solve, obstacles to overcome, simply for the experience of overcoming them. One of the Zelani hunters, a female with distinctive black stripes, stepped forward. The humans taught us that the greatest prey is not any animal, she said. The greatest prey is our own limitations. When we stop hunting those, we stop growing. The prey species in the assembly were listening with growing interest. A representative of the Orvani, a species of intelligent bird-like creatures, spoke up. But what does this mean for us? We are not predators. We do not hunt. Jake Morrison smiled. That's where you're wrong. Every species hunts something. You hunt knowledge, safety, better ways to live. The difference is that you've been thinking of hunting as something only predators do. Dr. Elena Martinez, who had joined them from the archaeological expedition, stood up to address the assembly. Our research on Kef Mora revealed something important. The ancient murals don't just show predator species. They show all kinds of creatures being taught by the human ancestors. She activated a holographic display that showed images from the ruins. Look at these paintings carefully. Yes, there are scenes of humans teaching predators how to hunt more effectively. But there are also scenes of humans teaching prey species how to avoid being caught, how to become stronger, how to survive in a universe full of dangers. The assembly fell silent as they studied the images. In painting after painting, the primitive human figures were shown interacting with both predators and prey, teaching both groups different lessons, but always pushing them to become more than they were. The humans were not just teachers of predators, Elena continued. They were teachers of evolution itself. They showed every species how to hunt whatever was holding them back from becoming stronger, smarter, more capable of surviving in a dangerous universe. Skarthik approached the center of the hall. This is why we recognize something familiar in human eyes, he said. Not because they are predators like us, but because they understand the universal truth that we had forgotten. Everything in the universe is hunting something, and everything is being hunted by something else. Even the universe itself is hunting, added Morden. It hunts all of us with time, with entropy, with the slow death of stars and the cooling of space. The humans understand this. They hunt back. A member of the Galactic Council, an ancient being called the High Arbiter, spoke for the first time. What you are describing sounds like constant conflict, endless struggle. How is this better than the peace we have built? Ryan looked at the High Arbiter with the steady gaze that had unsettled so many predator species. Because peace without growth is just slow death. When you stop facing challenges, you stop becoming stronger. When you stop becoming stronger, something stronger will eventually replace you. But there is another way to look at it, Lisa added. Hunting doesn't have to mean violence or destruction. It can mean pushing boundaries, solving problems, exploring new frontiers. The humans hunt knowledge, hunt solutions to impossible problems, hunt ways to make life better for everyone. Jake gestured to the mixed crowd of predators and prey species in the assembly. Look around this room. A few weeks ago, many of you were afraid of each other. Predators and prey species barely spoke to each other. But now you're here together, working together, learning from each other. Because you've all remembered that you're in this together, Ryan continued. The universe is hunting all of you equally. The only way to survive is to help each other, become stronger, to share what you learn, to face the challenges as a united galaxy rather than as separate species. The High Arbiter studied the humans for a long moment. And what is it that you propose we hunt together? The memory keepers had prepared the humans for this question. Jake took a deep breath before answering. Everything that threatens life. In this galaxy. Disease, ignorance, the slow death of stars, the heat death of the universe itself. We hunt the things that hunt us all. Skarthik stepped forward and placed his clawed hand on Jake's shoulder. We, the predator species of this galaxy, formally recognize the humans as kin who hunt beyond flesh. You are the hunters of concepts, the stalkers of impossibility, the pack leaders in our war against entropy itself. One by one, the other predator. Species voiced their agreement. But then something unexpected happened. The Trell representative, one of the small prey creatures, stepped forward. We also recognize the humans, the Trell said. Not as predators, but as teachers. You have shown us that being prey does not mean being helpless. You have taught us that we too can hunt our fears, our limitations, our acceptance of weakness. Other prey species began adding their voices to the recognition. They had realized that the humans were not teaching the galaxy to become more violent or dangerous. They were teaching it to become more alive, more dynamic, more capable of growth and change. The ceremony concluded with the establishment of the Eternal Hunt Protocol, a new galactic law that recognized every species' right to pursue challenges and growth. Hunting was redefined not as predation, but as the pursuit of improvement, knowledge, and strength. As the assembly dispersed, Jake found himself standing with Kethva near one of the great windows that looked out into space. The Vextar was watching. A group of young beings from different species playing together in a nearby corridor. Predator cubs and prey younglings were learning from each other, sharing games that had never existed before. We always wondered why the universe seemed to be hunting us all, Kethva said quietly. Now we understand. It was waiting for a species that would teach us how to hunt it back. Jake nodded, watching the young aliens play. In their eyes, both, predator and prey, he could see the same fire that burned in human eyes. The recognition that everything hunts and everything is hunted, and that the dance between challenge and growth is what makes life worth living. Your eyes hold the reflection of every hunter that ever lived, Kethva continued, because you are what we all aspire to become. Hunters of the infinite, stalkers of the impossible, the species that refuses to accept that anything cannot be overcome. The galaxy had awakened from its peaceful slumber. The eternal hunt had begun again, but this time it was not about survival. It was about becoming something greater than any species had ever dreamed possible. And in the eyes of every being in the galaxy, human and alien alike, burned the ancient fire of those who hunt the very concept of limitations itself.